What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders. Happy to be with you as we tape another video for a golf tournament. We've only got two left before the winter break, so time to make it count. We've got the Houston Open this week. Hewlett Packard, I think, is sponsoring this tournament's changed sponsors just like all the other ones have the last few years, but we'll just call it the Houston Open for our sake during this show. And I am Justin Van Zuiden, a.k.a. STL Cardinals 84. I've got Notorious alongside me. Noto, we had the chalk hit in golf last week. We were just talking about that before the show. And, how's the early part of the NBA season treating you?
Yeah, chalk definitely hit last week. Ended up having a profitable week overall, thanks to the round 3 showdown. Had a pretty good lineup in the big GPP on DraftKings. So that's really my, only W on the week, but I will take it. NBA, it's been a lot of fun. Also a pretty slow start in terms of DFS, but stacked to the Sixers and Bucks game tonight. So we'll see how that goes. What about you? How was your week at, what was it, Mayakoba?
Yeah, Mayakoba, my article picks were good. I was like 7 of the 8 finished inside the top 25, but unfortunately in my player pool, I didn't put the best plays around them. Had exposure to a lot of the guys at the top, but didn't have the volume of 6-6 lineups to really make any of them count. So it was a little bit of a negative week. Felt like it should have been better than it ended up being. But when the chalk hits, if you don't have the right combo in a given lineup, it's tough to make it a big week. So it's just hard to get into those tournaments when you just don't have the shot tracker to get really, really mad at it. You got to have the shot tracker to get real mad. So we've got that back this week and next week. So we'll happily put some entries in for the Houston Open and then the RSM next week. But it was a week where Victor Hovland, back-to-back wins at that tournament, saw Justin Thomas after a horrible start get back in the mix. Sergio was up there. Neiman was up there. Gooch was up there. So, lots of the good plays up near the top. But, we talked about it last week on the show. Hovland, with his ball striking, as long as his short game doesn't implode, he's going to be there every week. So impressive performance from him.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. Obviously was rooting for JT. I had outright on him, had him in my main lineup. But he kind of shot himself in the foot early in that round. He was, 1 over par heading into the par 5 and then 3-putted the par 5 for a par. And after that, just couldn't really get anything going. But Hovland, one of the better ball strikers in the world. He's becoming a much better putter as well. I know we don't have shot link data from last week's event, but his putting has been improved recently. And just at these birdie fests, where you don't have to chip a lot, I think that's really a big advantage to him because that's kind of been the weak part of his game. You mentioned him winning back-to-back. I thought we were going to get a chance to do that again this week with Carlos Ortiz, but he has withdrawn. So won't be able to do that. I'm kind of glad because he was setting up to be very popular. But overall, pretty good week. Good to see Wolf back. He's kind of played well in a few straight tournaments. Neiman had a good run. Answer put together a really good Sunday. So a lot of chalk hit. And I think this is going to be the first tournament in quite a while where we've had shot tracker and a cut because we had the CJ Cup to Zozo and then a couple out of the country. So I'm excited for both of those together.
Yeah, 2 more of those before the break. And Scheffler, another guy too that was up there in the mix last week, had a pretty good Sunday round himself. So basically the top 10 was littered with strong plays and not a lot of the 6-7K, who the heck is this in the top 10. Didn't see a whole lot of that last week, which, made it important for those winning lineups to have as many 6-6 guys or 6-6 lineups, or as many of those top 10 guys as you could, to get the optimal lineup last week, because so much of the chalk did hit. But this week, I think it's interesting, because with a lot of these fall swing events, we see, easier courses, tournaments where we can see guys shoot 20, 22, 25 under par. We see that a lot with these fall swing events, even with weaker fields. And even though this week's course is like a municipal course, they make it pretty challenging. It's a par 72 for members, but they make it a par 70 for this event. So some really long par fours, some longer par threes, and the cut was 3 over here last year. I mean, when's the last time we've seen an event with a cut line over par? I legit can't remember the last time that a cut was over par. So, it's kind of refreshing in this day and age of all these score fests and shootouts to see a course that's going to challenge these guys a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And over par, that's pretty rare outside of the majors. So I'm excited for it. I read a quote from the guy that redesigned the course, and he was saying, professionals, they prefer, hitting out of the sand, and amateurs, they don't. Myself, I hate when my ball lands in the sand. I know it's going to add an extra stroke to the old scorecard. So he took out like 80 of the bunkers. I think there's only 17 left on the course. That's actually made it easier for the amateurs and more challenging for the pros, which I thought was interesting. And then you mentioned it's a par 70. There are 3 par 5s on the course, and there is 1 drivable par 4. But other than that, I mean, very tough test of golf. The fairways are tough to hit. The greens were extremely tough to hit, and they're undulating, and there's a lot of runoff. So you're going to get a lot of tricky lies around the green. So a good short game is definitely going to come into play. I think bogey avoidance is going to come into play. The course itself features Bermuda grass throughout. So if you want to look at splits, whether you want to look at putting splits or just overall Bermuda splits, I don't mind that angle. And I just think a solid tee to green, solid all around game is going to do a lot of good this week.
Yeah, it's not, again, a lot of these courses in the fall swing, you can basically hit it wherever off the tee and get away with it. Probably not the case here with the rough and the runoff areas around the greens. You don't want to be in the wrong spots hitting into these greens, or you can be looking at basically a guaranteed bogey if you're, caught with a bad angle. So it's going to be a lot different than what we've seen for much of the fall swing events. We got the full cut, we got the shot tracker, and it's going to be refreshing, to say the least. So we have had a field change. Notable mention: Carlos Ortiz has withdrawn. John Hub will replace him. Not sure. He probably will get added to the full player pools on all the sites, because that took place on Tuesday afternoon. Usually they do add those guys. If it takes place Wednesday, a lot of times they'll only be reflected in the showdown and the weekend contests. But we'll probably get him added to the player pool. But the main takeaway is that you want to make sure you're not rostering Carlos Ortiz. So any other thoughts on the course or the event in general before we get rolling here?
You mentioned the greens being tough to hit from the rough, and I believe I saw it was the 3rd or 4th lowest green regulation percentage from the rough on the PGA Tour last year. So you're going to want to stay in the fairways, but a lot of the golfers have said, you gotta have some distance as well off the tee. So I think looking at some type of total driving, which combines accuracy and distance, is probably the way I would go. I wouldn't lean strictly on distance or strictly on accuracy. You just kind of want to hit it long and straight. That sounds easy enough, but that should be a big advantage this week.
No problem. Long and straight. Got it. 315 right in the fairway. I can do it every time. All right. Let's dig in here. We've got 132 golfers in the field this week. So, not a full 156 or a 144 man field, but with the limited daylight hours. Not sure if you've noticed, but seems like it gets dark around 2:00 this time of year. It's hard to get 156 golfers through with the daylight hours. So 132 is about as deep of a field as you're going to see this time of year. And we've got 7 golfers above 10K. And I think from a strategy angle, this is really interesting because almost all of the expensive chalk got there last week. And I think you're going to see a lot of people try to jam in those expensive plays again this week. But I think it's a little more spread out, whereas last week we talked about wanting to get exposure to the top 3 or 4 guys. This week, the field's a little deeper and there's maybe 6 or 8 guys at the top. So Burns, Scheffler, Finau, Wolf, Cam Smith, and Hatton, all above 10K. So that's gives us quite a few options in there. They're all quality golfers. We've got them all between 10 and 20% right now in terms of projected ownership. So how you parsing out that top group as we get started?
Yeah, it's weird seeing Sam Burns priced above, some of these other names, but over the last 6 months, he's number one in strokes per round in this field. And I mean, he's just been awesome. Top 20s in 5 straight events, 7th here last year. You look at his stats. I mean, he's good off the tee, really good on approach. He's pretty good around the green, and he's one of the better putters on tour. So I think he deserves the price point. I'm not sure I can get to the 20% that we haven't projected for right now, but certainly a guy I wouldn't take out of my player pool completely. He's been playing better than anyone else priced up here. I'll take the savings. I like Tyrrell Hatton quite a bit. Had the 2nd place finish over there on the European Tour, backed it up with an 18th and then a 40th. He also finished tied 7th here last year. He's one of the better guys in terms of bogey avoidance. He's 3rd in this field. He's just a grinder. I kind of like those types on these really difficult golf courses. I ran strokes gained based on how golfers fare on difficult golf courses, and he's top 5 in this field over the last couple of years. So I like that. Scheffler obviously coming off the good week. Sungjae, always a guy that performs well on Bermuda, and he's one of the better total drivers of the ball, number 1 in this field in good drive percentage. And then you have Finau. I like Finau quite a bit. Another guy that tends to play difficult golf course as well. He always shows up at the majors, always shows up at the WGC events. So I kind of like everyone up here. I'll probably be off of Matthew Wolff. Again, I'm rooting for him, and he's playing some great golf, but he does feel a little expensive to me. And then Cam Smith, he feels a little out of place to me. I like all the other guys above 10K a little bit more.
And Cam Smith, man, he's always the hero par save on these types of courses. True. He's gonna use that imagination, and he's always gonna make a better result than what the stats seem to indicate. It's tough to get behind it from a statistical angle, but I faded him enough to where I feel like I just have to play him some nowadays.
I like him at 8K,
Yeah, not 10-2. It's like Burns at 11-1. Like if I'm panhandling on the street in a few months, it's because I keep fading Burns when he's the most expensive guy in the field, but
he's number 1 in the world.
Yeah, right. I think Sungjae's my favorite. When he's on, he's one of the best tee to green guys on tour, and we saw him really lag for much of 2021. But starting it over with the fall swing, he had that dominant win a couple weeks ago. He was pretty good the week after that, another top 10. And he's top 10 in let's see, fall swing. He's 6th in ball striking. So, obviously if he's striking it well, he's going to contend. And this is the type of course where I think, it fits his game nicely. Played here last year. And if you're looking at course history, only 1 year, last year was the first year they played at this course. So you could ignore anything beyond last year as far as this specific course goes. But, Sungjae, I think, is my favorite. I like Hatton as well. Wolf is probably the other guy. Wolf and Burns, I probably won't play. Nothing against him, but Burns, just at that salary, I'd rather play the other guys. 11-1 is a little tougher to get. The 6K value starts to get a little uneasy in this field. So and Hatton are my favorites. Other thoughts on the 10Ks and up for you?
I do like him quite a bit. What's crazy? I was just looking. So 26 golfers priced 7,700 and up played this event last year, and all of them made the cut. So anybody up here that played last year has pretty good course history, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that, to be honest. I kind of, it makes sense now, and knowing that I looked through that earlier today when I was doing my content, and didn't really notice anybody of note that had missed a cut. So maybe we'll see a chalk fest again. Who knows? Or this will be the year where everybody chaos reigns supreme. Weird to see with all these guys above 10K that Brooks and Adam Scott and Neiman are not among them. Then we've got Gooch, whose prices come up, Wise, whose prices come up. He had at least a solid start to the week last week. Ortiz is withdrawn, so don't roster him. And then Patrick Reed all the way down at 9K. Again, several guys priced above him. So This is the range where you got some guys that are well known, but maybe not playing as well right now with Koepka and, Scott and Reed. Neiman had that good result last week. So interesting range here. Who do you like?
Yeah, I know I said I never play Brooks in non-majors, but I'm going to go against my rule there this week. He's 9,900 coming off of the miscut. He did help with the redesign or whatever. They consulted him. Not that that matters, but played here last year and finished fifth. And what I like the most, the last three cuts he's missed, when he's played the next week, he's finished first, second, and fifth. So when he tees it up after a miscut, he tends to have a good bounce back performance. And again, he plays difficult golf course as well. So I'll be on Brooks this week. I like him as an outright. I think I saw a 35-1 out there on FanDuel earlier. So I certainly like that number. I like Adam Scott as well. Number one in this field in ball striking over the last 24 rounds, number three over the last 12 rounds. So after being pretty much terrible ball striker for like a year, and he turned into a good putter somehow. It was very strange watching that. He's ball striking again. So if he can putt mixed with the ball striking, I think he's a guy that can contend here. And just naturally, I got to be underweight on Taylor Gooch and Aaron Wise. They're awesome. They've been in great form. I would just rather take the bigger names that are going to be low owned, that are more talented long term. So I'll go with Scott and Brooks, and I'm sure I'll regret it when Gooch and Wise both finish in the top 10 again.
I'm probably out on Wise. I don't mind Gooch. Gooch is the guy that he was in the final group last week. Played really bad on Sunday, so everyone's gonna kind of be ignoring him at that salary, the bad taste in their mouths from the finish last week. But otherwise, he was solid. And you look at this fall swing starts, 4 of them 11th or better every time. And then he played well here last year too. So I like Gooch. I'll play him over Wise. I'm probably out on Wise as well. Don't mind the calls on the other guys. I'm still out on Reed.
Really?
Neiman. Yeah, still out on Reed. Neiman, Scott, and I didn't play Reed last week either. After I said he was one of the last cuts from. I thought you had talked me into playing him some, but he was one of the last cuts from my player pool. Made the cut on the number after a terrible Thursday, but anyway, out on Reed. But I don't mind Koepka, Scott, Neiman at the top there. So, and single digits on Koepka and Scott, definitely interesting in terms of ownership, with not a lot of people playing them in general these days. So don't mind those calls. Anything else on the 9Ks for you there?
Man, I just feels like I'm making a mistake fading the two guys in great form. But yeah, I don't know. Doesn't feel great playing them at 20 and 17%. So I'll see. Maybe I'll play some Gooch with you, and we'll just cheer against Wise together. But
we can fade Wise together. Yeah, I didn't want to play them both. The numbers told me Gooch, so I'll play him. All right, getting down into the mid range here. 8K golfers. Henley was a popular play last week. Didn't really do much. Kokrak hasn't done much in the fall swing. We got guys that are either on a bad run of form that maybe seem priced okay, or are playing well and priced up a little bit, like Seamus Power. He's in this range. Leishman's been playing a little better lately, but no real chalk in this range. It looks like McNeely at 8,500 is the only kind of really popular play. Power as well, getting a little bit of ownership, but I kind of like mixing and matching in this 8K range. Henley, for all his kind of reputation that he only does well on the shootout type of courses, he leads the tour, I believe, in ball striking right now, or strokes gained approach, one of the two. And he didn't really do much as chalk last week, so people are kind of jumping off a little bit. So I don't mind going back to Henley here. Who are you looking at in the 8Ks?
Agree with you on Henley. I think he's interesting. He tends to play long course as well, which you wouldn't think would be the case because he's one of the shorter hitters off the tee, but he's so good with his long irons that he makes up for it. He's very accurate off the tee. So even if he's 20 yards behind everyone else, he's really good with his long irons, and he's going to be in the fairway, which I like. T29 here last year as well. Going to be off of Kokrak. This would seem like the perfect course for him, but he's lost off the tee in 6 of 7. He's lost on approach in 4 of 7. So a guy that was known for his, great off the tee and ball striking is just not there right now. I don't mind fading that. Zuiden out 28 straight cuts. It just continues to make the cut every single week he plays. Doesn't matter what tour it's on. I don't think this is a great course fit for him, but I do think he's going to be safe. I think he'll play on the weekend. And then I like Lowry. Did burn a lot of people last week, but only missed the cut by 2. He finished T11 here last year. So I like Lowry and Henley the most, but overall, not a great range for me. I think I prefer the 9Ks and then dipping down into the 7s.
Yeah, interesting. I think you can get some upside from this group. Probably going to have a guy or two that finishes inside the the top 10, but also might have a couple of chalk busts in this range. So going for some of the lower owned ones, the guys that we have in the single digits, Tringali would be one of them. Let's see, Leishman, Kokrak. I'm kind of with you though. The stats have just been quite alarming of late, so I'm not on him. But what do we make of these guys that have played a ton of fall swing events like McNeely and Power? Like, are you more inclined to roster some of these guys over the guys that have been playing, maybe only 1 or 2 fall swing events? What do we make of the guys that have been playing every week here versus the ones that haven't?
I probably should be more inclined to play them. I kind of treat DFS like the stock market. I don't want to buy high on anyone. And it does feel like we're buying high on these guys. But I mean, we've seen it from Sebastian Munoz, Lonto Griffin, some of these guys in years past that have just been able to string a bunch of good fall swing season events together, and then end up being like towards the top of the FedEx Cup standings because they had such a good fall swing season. So I don't mind chasing it. Seamus Power certainly probably my favorite of the bunch, coming off of 3 straight top 25s. Also picked up a win during the fall swing as well. So he's probably my favorite. But if you're looking for a great driver of the ball, McNeely's 11th in off the tee, 5th in total driving, and 14th in good drive percentage. So he's going to give himself a lot of good looks off the tee. And that's really half the battle potentially at this golf course.
All right. Yeah, I tend to lean a little bit towards those guys that have been playing a lot of the events too, but it's a double-edged sword because those are often the ones that tend to be a little higher owned too. So
yeah,
a little bit of a, give and take a little bit here, but all right. Before we start to get down into the kind of lowest part of the 8K range and into the values, just a couple of housekeeping things here. A couple things. Rotogrinders Premium, we encourage you to try us out. Obviously, this show is free on our YouTube channel, but we've got plenty of good stuff behind the paywall, articles from Noto and myself, lineup HQ tags, and our lineup building software makes it super easy for you to build multiple lineups. And you can either choose single sport if you're just interested in the golf here, or you can choose the combo package, which includes pretty much all of our offerings except NASCAR. So it's a great value right now. You got NFL going on, you got NBA going on, you got NHL going on, college basketball started up tonight. Never a time of year where there's more sports going on than what we have right now. So check out Rotogrinders Premium. You can click the link. We'll have our producer throw it in the chat, and it'll be in the description. Get $10 off your first month of Rotogrinders single sport or combo premium. And also don't forget to sign up for Prize Picks, proud sponsor of the show. They do a lot of stuff with all these different sports going on right now. You get the college basketball player props and NFL, and you can parlay together from different sports. So you can either download the app or visit prizepicks.com. They don't have any golf picks up right now. I think they decided to not do that with all the new sports starting and just a couple events left. But you can do NBA, you can do NFL, you can do college hoops, you can do hockey, college football, soccer, MMA, all that stuff on prizepicks.com. So check them out or download the app, and you can get some good NBA props on there as well. So, all right, let's see. Did we get through the 8Ks? What do we do with Homa these days? I feel like I haven't played him in a while, and I don't feel like he's done much, but I mean, he still tends to get some ownership. Homa?
He just won.
Did
a couple
he?
weeks ago.
When did he win? Why did I forget this?
The Fortinet.
Are you serious?
So I guess it was like
I have no
ago.
recollection of this. That must have been a terrible week for me. I have absolutely no recollection of him recently winning.
I mean, he's been in pretty bad form other than that. But yeah, won the Fortinet and then almost dead last at the CJ Cup.
Yeah. I'll be darned. It happened. I see that it happened. Like, not sure. I'm not sure what happened to me. Like, that was only 2 months ago. Man, it's weird. There's so many sports going on, and sometimes you just lose a week of data, or that was probably a horrible week for me, and I didn't even remember that. Probably wasn't following it on Sunday, didn't remember. All right, well, I guess that explains the double digit ownership, but I'm probably not playing him, considering I didn't remember that he won a couple months ago. Maybe need to dig into that a little bit more, but well, good for him. He's going after those Twitter points for the social media engagement. The win will help him.
Yeah.
And Mckenzie Hughes getting some ownership as well. He was 7th here last year. He tends to play well in spurts, and he's been playing okay over the last couple of months after a bad run of form himself. So double digit ownership there. Don't mind it at 7,900, but you got some bigger names behind him: Mito Pereira, Varner, Streelman, Johnny Vegas. Pereira was awful last week. I think he was near the bottom, almost dead last. I'm always a fan. What do we do with him coming off a dead last?
I think you go right back to him. I wish we had some shot link data to see what went wrong, if it was just all, around the green and putting, or if he was bad with the irons off the tee, whatever it may be. But one of the better drivers of the ball in the field, and he's 3rd on approach. So I certainly will be going back to Mito. I do like Mckenzie Hughes. He's quietly made 10 straight cuts. You mentioned the 7th place here last year. Then he was 4th at the Zozo was last time out. And if you looked at the old school ball striking numbers, just the fairways, driving distance, and greens and regulation, he was top 4 in the field. So a guy that typically relies on a short game was at least hitting the ball well in terms of the old school ball striking stats his last time out. So I do like him. He tends to play the same course as well each and every year. And then don't mind going to Varner. Missed the cut his last time out, but was right on the number. He had been playing some great golf before that. T15 here last year. I'll go back to Streelman. He burned me last week, but the guy that you expect to keep it in the fairway. He's long enough off the tee and then very good with his irons. So take your chances with his short game. And Vegas seems like a great course for Vegas. One of the better guys off the tee, 3rd in strokes gained off the tee in this field. And his irons have been really good over the last, 5 months or so. So I like Vegas. I like Streelman. I like Mito. And I like Hughes, 7,500 and up.
Yeah, pretty strong range of interesting options. I think you get some upside from this group. I kind of like Ramey a little bit too. He's back-to-back top 20 finishes. So after a miscut in his first start, he's been one of the more consistent of the newly crowned PGA Tour card holders this year. So Ramey, I don't mind at 7,500. Let's see. And then if we start to go and I agree with those picks that you mentioned as well. Like Vegas here, I think at 7,500, not as many people on him this week compared to, some of the other fall swing events where we saw him in the 20s when he was underpriced. As far as ownership, he was in the 20s for a few of those events. 7-8% this week. I think this is a spot to hop aboard. And Charlie Hoffman, we know one thing about Hoffman. He always tends to play well in Texas, and his numbers aren't great for the fall swing, but he's shown time and time again that, he can flip the switch and play well in Texas. So I like Hoffman at 7,300. And then I'll go back to my boy Pendrith here. Pendrith is the one guy I think I've gotten right like every week. And we said last week, coming off the 5th place finish, you said, I said, do I take the 1 week of profits and hop off? And you said, probably the case with it not being a course that suits his game, suits his ability to use the driver. And that's exactly what happened. He didn't, he was another guy that was down near the bottom. So I think this week with all the long par 4s, his ability to get it out there off the tee, I think this is a spot where we can buy back into Pendrith, and he's down at 4, 5, 6% ownership again. So Hoffman, Ramey, Pendrith, a couple of my guys in the mid part of the 7K range. Who else do you like in there?
Love the Pendrith call. I've been waiting for a course that fits his skill set, and I do think this is it. So I'll definitely play more of him than the 6% we haven't projected for right now. I do like Hoffman as well. I focus on, more long-term stats. I mix in some short-term ones as well, but he's the best value play in my model on a point per dollar basis on both FanDuel and DraftKings. And you mentioned it, the Texas narrative. I'll certainly be buying into that. He did play here last year, and he finished T29. So at this price point, I will gladly take that if he can replicate it. The rest of the 7Ks, I don't know. I don't have a strong take on anyone. Joel Damon rates out pretty well for me. Taylor Moore is another one of those Corn Ferry Tour guys with back-to-back top 25s on the PGA Tour. Don't know a lot about him, but he's been good off the tee and he's been a really good putter. So maybe he's got that similar skill set to Pendrith, if you want to pair those two up. And that's pretty much it for me in the sevens.
Any interest in somebody, I guess, some of these guys that have gotten some ownership, Grillo, Poulter, CT Pan, he had some ownership last week. Your boy Harmon at 7,100. Like, there's some pretty good, more names. I'm not used to seeing this many names down here with the strength of the field. Keith Mitchell at 7K. Anybody that you might actively look to avoid this
Harmon. He's been terrible. Strokes gained, ball striking over the last 24 rounds. He's 117th in this field. Birdie or better in that same stretch, 121st. I don't know what happened to him. He was so consistent for like 8 months in a row. And now he has just been terrible. So off of Harmon, I'm off of Grillo as well. Last week was like his favorite course. He had never missed a cut there, and he missed a cut there. He's been missing a lot of cuts recently. And it's mainly short game, but his ball striking's taken a little bit of a dip too. So going to be off of him, especially if he's going to be popular. Don't mind CT Pan. He's a guy that tends to keep it in the fairway. And his irons have been better recently. I just worry about his upside.
Yeah, I question the upside as well in this type of field for sure. Didn't finish last week. I played him a good bit last week. He was on my best roster, so I was following him. Not super pleased with the finish. But
yeah, I had him Sunday showdown.
That didn't go very well. All right, let's move into the value range. We'll go ahead and call it a wrap, and then one more tournament before the break. 6K. I think you can live in the 7K range with the value. Like in your single entry cash game build, are you going below 7K with anybody?
Luke List, baby.
Okay.
Yeah,
in a single entry, you're okay with Luke List.
I think he's making my main lineup this week. One of the better guys, tee to green. We think a lot of these ball strikers like Grillo and a couple others that just very good off the tee and very good on approach. But List also brings good around the green. He's top 40 in this field and around the green. And he's first in this field over the last 9 months in greens and regulation. And I do think that's going to be pretty important this week. He's been either making cuts and posting top 20s or missing the cut either by 1 or 2 strokes in the fall swing season. So I like the spot for Luke List. He's got a lot of good finishes in some of the tougher tracks. I get some of the majors as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to take some Luke List. Outside of that, nobody else will make I'm definitely not dipping, 2 of these guys in my single entry build.
Yeah, I don't mind List. Don't know if I would have the stones to do it in a single entry, but you look at his tee to green numbers over the last 30, 40, 50 rounds. They are very encouraging. Just all going to come down to the short game with him. And I think he's clearly the play of the 6K range. And outside of him, I'm scrolling through now. I don't think we have anybody else in the 6Ks that's above 5% projected ownership. Just a whole lot of not much down there. Couple guys in the chat. One says don't play Jason Day ever. That's probably a reasonable suggestion nowadays.
Should have told me that a year ago.
And then somebody asking about thoughts on Munoz as a kind of YOLO play.
He either top 10s or is bottom 20 in the field. I don't understand it. There's no rhyme or reason to when it happens, but we know the upside's there. So MME, I'm fine with it. Anything else, I wouldn't play him.
Yeah, he's okay in GPPs. I don't like a whole lot else in the 6Ks. I don't feel like this is the course for somebody like Knox. Hoagie's gotten some ownership the last few weeks, but again, I just don't love it. Adam Long is the only other guy. Adam Long and Denny McCarthy are the only other guys that we have above 4% down here, and doesn't feel like the course for McCarthy either. He's been a little better lately, but
yeah, I like McCarthy on the 7,000 yard, courses like we've seen in the last couple of weeks. He's just so bad. Does the model pop
anybody down here?
So a couple guys. Yeah, Trey Molinex, very long off the tee and a good putter. Kind of fits the Pendrith and Taylor Moore mold. And then, we played the Scott Jucheski game, whatever.
Oh, here we go. Who we got tonight?
Dowie Vanderwalt. So we need to look up this guy.
All right. I've at least heard of him. So that's a plus, probably because of the van.
I would assume he's a young guy since he's from the Corn Ferry Tour, but I'm hoping he's like 50.
He's 38.
Okay.
He's 38.
Veteran.
So,
like
yeah, He has I like these segments, the old all about so and so. Turned pro in 2007, played on the Sunshine Tour and the Mini Tour starting in 2008, won 4 events between 2008 and 2011. Then 2013, he started on the Web.com Tour, which is now the Korn Ferry Tour, basically the first division behind the PGA Tour. And he played on the Web.com 13, 14, and 15. Let's see. And then got his PGA Tour card for 2015, 2016, made 11 cuts in 25 events, went back down to the web.com/Korn Ferry Tour, and then got his card for this year by finishing 17th in the Korn Ferry Tour finals. So yeah, he's been around. He's got some wins. He's got a couple European Tour wins as well. So
he's a grinder, and he finished T20 here last year. 6,100. He's the new Scotty G. He's DVW, we'll call him.
All right, we'll throw him in some lineups just because I felt left out for not playing Scotty G a couple weeks ago, if only for the rush of when he was tied for the lead if there for 30 minutes on Thursday afternoon. So, all right, there's not much else in the 6K range. Don't get carried away with it. Live in that 7K range if you want safer value plays. So, with that, I think it's going to wrap us up. Pretty easy to get through with only 132 as opposed to 156 in the field. And we're down to just one tournament to go before the winter break. So time to make them count. We've got the RSM Classic down in Georgia next week. And Noto and I will be back to break that one down with you. Until then, we'll sign off for now. Thanks to our producer, Steve. And for Noto, I'm Justin. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and good luck.